$1.75 billion. Hollywood royalty, a former head of Hewlett-Packard, Steven Spielberg, Jennifer Lopez, LeBron James, and enough pre-sold advertising to make failure look impossible. Quibi launched on April 6, 2020. 6 months later, it announced its own death. But here's the part that changes the autopsy. 6 years after Quibi collapsed, the kind of phone-first drama it chased is projected to become a $14 billion global business. Quibi was not simply wrong about the future. It may have seen the future and built almost every part of it incorrectly. Hello, and welcome to Billion Dollar Autopsy. This is case number 3, the Quibi case, a fortune burned, and an industry that rose from its grave. Quibi began with 2 people investors already trusted. Jeffrey Katzenberg had helped build modern animated Hollywood at Disney and DreamWorks. Meg Whitman had turned eBay from an online curiosity into a global company, then led Hewlett-Packard. Katzenberg understood studios, stars, and stories. Whitman understood scale, technology, and corporate execution. Their pitch sounded almost unfair. Take Hollywood production quality. Break it into episodes shorter than 10 minutes. Deliver it only to the device people touch all day. The name itself meant quick bites, TV, rebuilt for the empty minutes between everything else. Money did not trickle into Quibi. It arrived as a vote of confidence from the entire entertainment establishment. Disney, NBC, Universal, Sony, Warner, Viacom, MGM, Alibaba, and major financial investors joined the cap table. The total reached $1.75 billion before consumers had proven they wanted the product. That number bought more than shows. It bought certainty. When almost every studio is invested, every celebrity takes the meeting, every agency returns the call, and every doubt starts to look like a failure of imagination. Quibi had enough capital to skip the awkward stage where a startup learns whether anyone cares. The advertising story looked just as strong before the app launched. Quibi had commitments worth $150 million from 10 major brands: Walmart, Google, Pepsi, Procter & Gamble. The first year was effectively sold out. On a spreadsheet, the machine was already working. Premium shows attracted premium viewers attracted premium advertisers, and subscriptions added a second revenue stream. But every arrow in that diagram depended on one untested assumption. People had to form a new habit around a new app, and they had to do it before the cash ran out. Quibi was not cheap internet video with famous faces. It commissioned glossy scripted series, documentaries, reality shows, news, and daily programs designed around mobile viewing. Its signature technology, Turnstile, let the same scene reframe itself when a phone rotated from portrait to landscape. That was technically elegant and creatively difficult. Every shot had to work in 2 shapes. Every production carried the cost of TV and the constraints of an app. Quibi did not ask whether a phone needed Hollywood. It assumed Hollywood was the upgrade phones had been waiting for. Then came launch day, April 6, 2020. America was weeks into a pandemic shutdown. The commuter train, the airport gate, the coffee line, the little waiting rooms Quibi had designed itself around were suddenly empty. Sensor Tower estimated more than 300,000 installs in the United States and Canada on day 1. That sounds large until you remember the scale of the bet. Quibi did not need curiosity. It needed a daily ritual. And the world had just erased the ritual in which Quibi imagined itself living. Katzenberg would later point directly at the pandemic. He was not inventing the problem. A service built for movement launched into stillness. But the defense becomes weaker when you look sideways. During the same period, people watched enormous amounts of video. Streaming surged. TikTok expanded. YouTube remained a reflex. The audience had not abandoned screens, phones, or short content. It had abandoned Quibi. The pandemic explains why Quibi's original use case disappeared. It does not explain why the product failed to become useful inside the new one. The first mismatch was the screen itself. At launch, Quibi was stubbornly phone-centered. The company eventually moved toward television support, but only after the living room had become the center of pandemic entertainment. Premium drama wants darkness, a large screen, and uninterrupted attention. Phones live in bright rooms, one-handed beside notifications, messages, and social feeds. Quibi took the economics and polish of TV, then placed them inside the most distracted device humans own. It made the image smaller without making the experience lighter. The second mismatch was discovery. Mobile culture spreads through clips, screenshots, reactions, remixes, and links. A strange moment escapes its original audience and recruits the next one. Quibi launched as a controlled premium container. Early users complained that they could not easily capture and share the moments they liked. That did more than irritate people. It removed the free distribution system that makes mobile entertainment grow. Quibi was spending heavily to acquire viewers while its own viewers were prevented from becoming marketers. The app protected the content so carefully that it protected it from attention. The third mismatch was price. Quibi asked users to pay for short videos in a world where YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and countless publishers trained them to expect mobile discovery for free. A free trial could create downloads, but only a habit could create subscribers. Sensor Tower estimated that a small share of the early download wave converted after the trial. Quibi disputed the estimate and said its conversion was stronger, but it did not publish a number that changed the larger picture. The service needed millions of paying users, and each user had to understand why this app deserved another monthly charge beside Netflix, Disney, music, news, and everything else. Short episodes lowered the time commitment, but the subscription created a new financial commitment. Curiosity was arriving. Commitment was not. Then there was the content itself. Quibi's shows were short, but many still behaved like TV chopped into pieces. The production was polished. Some programs won awards. But mobile-native storytelling is not merely a shorter episode. It is a different rhythm, an immediate premise, a sharp emotional turn, a cliffhanger, then another. Quibi hired people who knew how to make movies and TV, and asked them to compress the form. The later Microdrama winners did something more radical. They rebuilt the form around the thumb. Put those mismatches together, and the cash burn geometry becomes brutal. Quibi paid for premium production. It paid for a new technology platform. It paid for national marketing. It paid to teach users a new name, a new format, and a new daily habit. Yet every week conversion made the next user more expensive. A smaller startup might have tested one genre, one city, one audience, or one price. Quibi arrived as a finished answer backed by nearly every important company in entertainment. Changing direction would not merely change a feature, it would challenge the story that unlocked the money. This is the danger of launching at scale before learning at small scale. Capital can buy a louder answer. It cannot force the answer to be yes. By summer, the service was already missing the trajectory its billion-dollar design required. A struggling startup can raise more money, change direction, or sell itself. Quibi explored its options, but a buyer would have to value more than a famous catalog. It would inherit a platform without a durable audience, a brand that had become a punchline, and complicated content rights built for a service that no longer made sense. The most revealing fact is not that Quibi could not save the company. It is that the entertainment giants that had funded the dream did not rescue the platform when it became cheap enough to buy. On October 21st, just over 6 months after launch, Katzenberg and Whitman published an open letter. They wrote that the failure was likely caused by one of two things. The idea itself was not strong enough to justify a standalone service, or the timing was wrong. They said every option had been considered and exhausted. Quibi would wind down, sell its assets, and return remaining cash. S&P Global reported that roughly $350 million was expected to go back to investors. The most expensive mobile video experiment in Hollywood had reached its final episode. The service ended around December 1st. Thousands of hours of ambition disappeared behind a dead login. In the standard version of this story, that is where the autopsy ends. The product was wrong, the pandemic was cruel, and $1.75 billion purchased a 6-month lesson. But 3 things happened after the black screen. The shows found another home. The phone drama format evolved without Quibi. And the market Quibi could not create became too large for Hollywood to ignore. In January 2021, Roku acquired Quibi's global content distribution rights. The official price was not disclosed. Reports placed it below $100 million, but the cleaner evidence is what Roku did next. It removed the subscription wall, placed the shows inside an existing audience, funded them with advertising, and renamed the catalog Roku Originals. The same programs that could not pull people into a new paid app were now used to keep people inside a free platform they already opened. Quibi's content did not need a resurrection, it needed distribution. Then the phones filled with short-scripted drama anyway, not Quibi's version. A stranger, cheaper, more aggressive form emerged from China and spread internationally. Episodes might last 1 or 2 minutes. Stories move at impossible speed. Betrayal, secret wealth, revenge, romance, another cliffhanger, another payment. A season can contain dozens of tiny episodes because the cliffhanger is not an interruption to the product. It is the product. The first episodes are often free. The next ones are unlocked through subscriptions, advertising, or in-app purchases. Discovery happens through social feeds and performance marketing. Viewers can encounter a story before they have ever heard the platform's name. The product does not wait for an empty 10-minute commute. It creates a reason to tap again in 10 seconds. The numbers are no longer small. Omdia projected $11 billion in global microdrama revenue for 2025. By mid-2026, the Associated Press reported an Omdia estimate of $14 billion by year-end. Sensor Tower said DramaBox and Reel Short each approached $140 million in in-app revenue in the first quarter of 2026 alone. Those figures are estimates of a fast-moving market, not audited promises. But the direction is unmistakable. The phone-first scripted audience Quibi imagined exists. It simply did not arrive through Quibi's door. So what did the winners change? First, cost. They produce around the economics of mobile attention, not prestige TV. Lower cost makes it possible to test many stories and kill the weak ones without endangering the company. Second, distribution. Social platforms are not the enemy outside the wall. They are the funnel. Paid ads and shareable scenes find viewers where they already scroll. Third, pacing. The story is engineered around immediate hooks and relentless cliffhangers, not simply edited into shorter chapters. Fourth, payment. Instead of asking for trust before the viewer cares, the product lets the viewer care first, then charges at the moment of maximum curiosity. That model has its own risks: aggressive spending, repetitive plots, and monetization designed around impulse. But it matches the behavior of the device. Quibi tried to make short video respectable. The winners made it compulsive. That is why too early is not a complete verdict. Being early means the same machine eventually works when the market catches up. Quibi's machine did not. The later winners changed the content grammar, the production budget, the discovery system, and the way money was collected. Quibi saw that people would watch scripted stories vertically and in short bursts. It missed what those people expected before, during, and after the video. It built HBO in portrait mode. The winning market built a soap opera inside a mobile game economy. Quibi spent $1.75 billion proving that money, talent, and timing cannot rescue a product from the behavior it refuses to understand. 6 months was enough to kill the company. 6 years was enough to reveal the irony. The audience was real. The format was real. Even much of the content survived. The failed part was the system connecting them. Every fortune leaves evidence. This one left a dead app pointing directly at a $14 billion future. This was case number 3, Quibi. Case closed. Every source used in this episode is listed below. If this autopsy earned your attention, like the video and subscribe for the next case.